From Software, developers of the fiendishly difficult Kingsfield series, is back for more of your blood in the equally challenging PS3 exclusive Demon's Souls. The land of Boletaria has been overwhelmed by a dense and deep fog that brings with it swarms of demons. A lone warrior, it's up to you to vanquish every demon in the area before finally tackling the Old One, the legendary entity responsible for the state of Boletaria.
Brave soul who fears not death. I shall guide you. So that you may lull the Old One back to slumber.
This is right about where the plot stops, which is uncharacteristic of a role-playing game. You're essentially told your final goal, and it's up to you to complete it however you see fit. The game world is divided into 5 different zones, each with several areas, mini-bosses, and bosses. The order in which you tackle these areas is left entirely up to you. There is no map screen, but seeing as each stage is essentially linear, this never becomes a problem. At the center of the world is the Nexus, an ethereal temple-like location where your soul is revived every time you die. It's the core of the game and the only place where you can use the souls you've gathered to level up. You can also purchase items and upgrade your weapons and other skills there, but curiously enough, there's no way to sell any of the loot that you've acquired. This makes materials, healing items, and special items the only things worth picking up. And when you invariably become over-encumbered by the nuggets of ore you find on enemy corpses, there's a way to store everything in the Nexus.
It's simple. Just bring me all the souls you can. In trade, I'll give you weapons, or forge ones you already have. With your souls, I can eke out a living, and with my weapons, you can go on living. Not a bad deal, huh?
The most important things are, of course, souls, be they the souls of humans, monsters, or demons. Souls allow you to level up, purchase upgrades, and learn new skills. There are no separate values for experience and gold like in traditional RPGs, but instead, one all-encompassing currency. However, this rarely becomes an issue because you will never find superior weapons or items in stores. The good stuff is always found out in the world. The equipment system is your standard fare with varying strengths of armor ranging from leather to plate. Lighter armor provides less defense with greater mobility, as do bucklers when compared to their tower shield counterparts. Weapons are divided into categories similar to those found in Western role-playing games like Baldur's Gate, like slashing or blunt weapons. You're allowed a primary and a secondary item in each hand, meaning you can have a shield but have a wand or a talisman available for when you want to cast a spell. This also allows for dual wielding or any other combination that your attributes permit. You can also wield one-handed weapons with both hands for extra damage. It also has standard slots for different armor pieces and accessories, a belt full of items to be used on the battlefield, and a way to equip bolts or arrows. Combat itself is very fluid, with the L1 button holding up your left item, a shield more often than not, and the R1 and R2 buttons respectively performing normal and strong attacks with the weapon in that hand. L2 will allow you to parry and give a small window where an instant kill is possible, and the targeting system is toggled by pressing the right analog stick. When using ranged weapons, one can opt for the standing targeting or use first-person mode for greater control. As for the difficulty curve of the game, it is steep to the point of being inaccessible to all but the most hardcore of gamers. If you take a hit when you're not blocking, massive damage is dealt, and most enemies can kill you in about half a dozen hits. Bosses can wipe you out even quicker, and while this is all well and good, the most difficult part of the game comes from what it lacks. Upon dying, you lose all of the souls you had collected and return to the Nexus. You have all of your equipment but none of the souls. Unless you can make it back to the bloodstain you left without dying, you'll lose those souls permanently. This results in an immense amount of backtracking, because there's nothing that can transport you to and from the Nexus. There are no scrolls of town portal or anything like that, so when you die, you have to make your way back through the dungeons all over again. And naturally, all of the enemies have respawned. At no time is this lack of a convenient waypoint system more annoying than during boss battles, because dying during a boss battle means your bloodstain will be as far from the Nexus as possible, and seeing as the bosses are infinitely more difficult than regular enemies, you'll do most of your backtracking while trying to defeat one boss. While difficult almost to a fault, the odds are never insurmountable. While you're tackling a boss for the 4th or 5th time, it can seem like you're stuck and you're never going to make any progress again. But perseverance will always be rewarded, and the feeling of accomplishment after defeating a boss is simply magnificent. One thing that Demon's Souls cultivates is careful planning. As soon as you perform any type of game or character-changing action, your progress is automatically saved. There's no way to go back. You can't save a backup file because progress is directly linked to the character. This means that if you kill an NPC, then that NPC is gone for good. Kill a shopkeeper and that shop is closed. The consequence of your actions affect the entire game, and this will train you to act with a modicum of self-preservation. Demon's Souls features an extremely innovative online mode. The game is always online and you can see other players. Or rather, you can see their souls. As you play the game, you will encounter faint white silhouettes of other characters being controlled by humans. There's a system that allows players to leave messages for others from a list of words, alerting other players of dangers ahead or hidden treasures. In addition to that, you can touch the bloodstains of other players who have died, which will provide an invaluable glimpse of their final moments. This is a measure in place to help you avoid potentially fatal mistakes by learning from others. There's also a more conventional approach to online play available. At the beginning of levels, or just before a boss battle, you can summon the soul of another player to your aid. If he helps defeat the boss, then his body will be returned to him. On the other hand, there's also a way to invade other players' games. Using a special stone, you can turn yourself into a black phantom and enter another player's realm against his will. The system makes it so that occasionally you are pitted against another human rather than a computer-controlled monsters, and it definitely adds some more excitement to the game. As for the graphics and the sound design, both are superb, with an unconventional and extremely interesting score that punctuates the more dramatic moments of the game and gorgeous visuals. Demon's Souls, set to be released October 6th, will be the title to separate the boys from the men. We can state without fear of hyperbole that this is one of the most punishingly difficult games we've ever played. However, it's never unfair. Your frequent deaths are never the result of poor design or cheap enemies, but instead your mistakes. This is one title where courting danger almost always ends in your demise. So if you feel your gaming mettle needs testing, don't hesitate to purchase Demon's Souls.